Okay.
Okay, good. All right. So we can see a few of you that are joining. Okay, that's good. So we can say hello. That's great.
Can you guys see people coming in?
Yes, I see my mom, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. I see Mandy, Lori, Leandro, Debbie Geiger, and no, the Nagys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Let's see who else wants to join.
We'll give it about a minute or two more just so people can join, and then we'll get kicked off here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I just want to let all our attendees know too that tonight's webinar will be recorded. So I'll be sharing that after the presentation is over tonight or tomorrow morning.
No.
No.
Um,
We'll give it one more minute yet, and then we'll get kicked off if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Definitely need some background music for sure. Greetings from Rio, you too.
I think we can start if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Hello, everybody, and good evening. My name is Andrew Kalnon. I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Relations at Dickinson. I've been at Dickinson for about 2 years now, and I oversee our Alumni Weekend, our Homecoming, and a few of our regional programs. So hopefully once things are back to normal, whatever that looks like, and we're back on the road and have in-person events, I'll be able to catch you at one of those. But tonight, you are all tuned in for our traveling adventures and mishaps from around the globe with Dan and Ana. And we're so thrilled that they were able to do this for us and something different for us we haven't done before. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to them.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Greatly appreciate it. Welcome all. And thank you first off very much for the opportunity. And we encourage everyone, if you have questions, feel free to use the chat box, speak up throughout at any point. It's definitely okay with me and Ana here.
So we know you're here, but I know you can't see each other, but we see all of you. So thank you, family, friends, and everybody else who's joined from the Dickinson community for our evening today, where we're going to tell you a little bit about our adventures and how our book came into fruition.
All right, so I think though probably most people on this know who we are. Just a little bit of background on our current situation, and then we'll talk a little bit about our work and then how we got to Dickinson. So currently, Ana and myself, we live in Center City, Philadelphia. We have 2 young children. Maya is our oldest daughter, who's 6, and Jake, who is 3. Maya was actually born in the Netherlands, and we'll talk a little bit about the Netherlands later on.
Mhm.
And for my work, I work in healthcare IT for a company called Epic. I like to describe it as basically we are the Microsoft of the healthcare world. So large technology company that works in healthcare. Lived and worked out of Wisconsin for many years and traveled a lot with work. Kind of traveled like people ride the bus to work. I was flying all over the place, domestically, internationally for a long time. Eventually, with my work, we had the opportunity to move over to the Netherlands. And now, more recently, I work. I basically get work mostly from home, and I get loaned out to various healthcare organizations throughout the U.S. If you want to go ahead, Anna, and tell a little bit about your cajillion different jobs that you have.
So I'm Anna, and I do have a few different jobs, all of them part-time, because otherwise I don't know how I would fit them in my schedule. So I'm mostly here in education. My background is at Dickinson. I studied anthropology and archaeology. That led me to work for some schools through nonprofits providing services for immigrants and refugees, and that led me to an interest in teaching. So I worked for public schools. More recently, I'm self-employed, and I have several students that are taking Spanish lessons with me. And I also started recently developing curriculum for a company that's called Zip School, which is a startup. And I'm very excited because it's my first time working for a tech company. So it's a little different than working for a school. And I've also become an Amazon consultant for people that are publishing books. I've successfully worked now with a number of authors to help them launch their book in the past year. So through our experience, I've also learned quite a bit and been able to capitalize on it and make something out of that. So you want to tell us about how you want me to
All
keep
you,
going? Okay.
all you,
So
all you.
a lot of you know the story, but I'm originally from Argentina. Dan is from South Jersey, and we met when he was a senior in college and I was a freshman. My journey of how I got to Dickinson is quite of a long story, but the short version is that thanks to some very generous people, including one who's on this call. So I received the wonderful opportunity of scholarship to come to the United States, thanks to the Global Campus Scholarship, and that's how I met Dan. And we had a long distance relationship for a few years, and then I moved with him to Wisconsin, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Exactly. My journey was a little bit easier coming from South Jersey, so not quite as difficult to get there to Dickinson. All right, so that's just a little bit of who we are, a little currently, a little background on us. Now let's continue on. So I guess first off, I just want to talk a little bit about why write a book in Spanish. So as you can probably tell, I am not a native Spanish speaker, but really the reason for this was first off, I always had it in the back of my mind that I thought it would be a cool goal. Something that would be interesting to do to write a book I think that was just always a goal of mine. But then I felt like on top of it, let me go ahead and do this in Spanish. And really the main reason for that is it's largely due to Ana and her family. So she, as she mentioned, from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Most of her family lives down there. So for the last handful of years or so, or it's been a while now, I've been working on my Spanish, and I feel like I'm at the point now where really to get to the next level of syntax, the word choice to use to really understand the details of the language, reading as well as writing were some of the best tools to do that. And plus, the other thing that was really a kick in the butt is she speaks to our children in Spanish. So that is a motivator. You do not want your kids eventually someday saying stuff that you don't understand. That's maybe a motivator or something I was fearful of. So I felt like, all right, if I'm going to do this, let's go ahead and let's do it in Spanish. So I primarily wrote the book, and then Ana acted as a very involved editor, and it was a very good process for me to not just have corrections and this is wrong or this is right, but it's better to say it this way. This is the better word choice. These are those kind of things. And then it was also something where we were really able to take advantage in a way of the pandemic. So early on last spring when this first started, we were just treading water.
But just so we could, like the project, it was almost like a 3-year project.
Correct.
So Dan had been working on it for a long time, and he kept nagging me for like a long time, like close to a year. Anna, come on, like you gotta make the revisions here. You gotta help me out. And I would do a little bit here and there, but it takes quite a bit of time to, edit a book, a 100-page book. And so I kept, doing bits and pieces here and there, but which I just couldn't find like chunks of time to just sit down and do it until Corona.
Until Corona. And at first with Corona, we were, I think like many others or many other young families, just like I said, just treading water because we're here in Philly. We have a good sized home, but it's a small home, and trying to manage the kids during the day, trying to work, and we were really struggling. And eventually we moved in with my fantastic parents in South Jersey. And one, it was for the summer, we had the pool and there was the comfort factor, especially early on with the safety precautions. But more so, we just realized we had so much more time having those extra helping hands where suddenly something we couldn't do, we were then able to really take it off the back burner and finish it up and really get through it.
Yeah. For those of you who are looking at that link, it's just an easier way to locate our book. So it's in kind of like longer URL, but if you're curious about it, you can use that bit.ly link to find it, Ana Dan book. And you can see that's the cover. And I want to take a moment to say thank you to my casting, Diana, who is the one that designed the cover for us, and the back cover, which is also great. So thank you. And so why about travel? Why a travel book, right? So one of the things that it's important to know for some of you who have been our followers is that this book really started when we were writing our blog. We started, the first travel blog we did was back in 2010. We did a trip, a 1-month trip to China and Japan. And that was true. We were doing it, if not daily, like every other day or so. We really wanted to have vivid memories of what we were experiencing. And remember, this is 2010. This is before, the ability of, smartphones where you can just like Instagram and just and show the world everything. We actually had to like sit on a computer, upload our photos, I think from like a real camera, right? And then write it all up, and and that's what we got us started. And we got kind of like an audience, like family and friends. They kept asking for more. They really enjoyed it. And then we said, we took a hiatus, right? A little bit of a pause for a while.
Hiatus is a good way to say it.
And then back in 2014, we had the amazing opportunity to live in Europe, specifically in the Netherlands. And that's what we figure, if we're going to be so far away, a lot of people now, more people want to know about our experiences. So we kept doing a blog. And this was more like every few weeks we would do an entry and we would tell everybody about what was going on in our lives at the time. Let's see. So that's kind of the inspiration, that blog, and the support that we receive from many people are in this call, and others that were just curious about our experiences. Let's see. So what were you going to
Oh no. So and I think ultimately, whenever you're writing something, we wanted to write about something we knew, something we know, and we all, prior to those experiences too, whether it was for my work or personally, we did a lot of travel, but then especially once we moved over to the Netherlands, that gave us the opportunity to go really just go all over the place. So that's one of the other real reasons for it.
Yes, and there was just a lot of things that had to happen in a certain way, like the fact that we were in Europe, which made it so much easier as a jumping point to go to certain places that you would normally not hop on a plane and go to Ireland for the weekend or to Spain for the weekend, but when it's, you can find very affordable flights and you can book it, a week or two ahead, or maybe even a few days before, and just kind of go, it makes it so much easier to explore. And we really took advantage of not only seeing all these other countries, but also even the Netherlands. We got to see a lot of it. When we say we've been to Germany, let's say, it's not like we were in Berlin. We were in Berlin and Hamburg and Kaiserslautern and Rothenburg and Leipzig. And, we travel, like we really traveled. And that's why, we had so many anecdotes, which we'll share some of those with you along the way.
Thanks, Anna. And then just a little bit about the Netherlands here. So as we mentioned, back, I guess, God, it's probably 5 years ago now, roughly.
Well, 2014.
So okay, longer time.
We lived in the Netherlands between 2014 and 2016. That was like our prime travel time.
And I think one of the things that was very interesting, on top of just having the ability as a jumping off point to visit many places, I think this, at least for me personally, I really learned there's a difference between living somewhere and visiting somewhere. And
like, for instance, we were in a trip to Italy, and the first thing out of my mouth is, oh, I would love to live here. It's so wonderful and so beautiful. And then I could tell you that probably within 10 minutes, I was like, nope. I love to visit Italy, but I do not want to live here. We had all sorts of issues from having a lot of trouble with people giving directions. Italians seem to want to be very helpful. I'm going to do a bit of a generalization here, but they really want to get out of the way to help you, but they have no idea what you're asking. So they will just kind of make it up, and they will maybe take you somewhere completely different.
Absolutely.
And then we had a few other things happening there, but we enjoyed our time there. It's just, it was not a place necessarily where we wanted to live.
And I think the other thing is too, just once you're somewhere for a while, you can start to see it with different eyes. And that's where, unfortunately, I think with us combined, we've spent enough time in the US, the Netherlands, as well as Argentina, where once you're somewhere, you start to see it differently. It starts to be, you have connections with people.
Mm-hmm.
You get used to the products. You're no longer using whatever product, whether it's some hair thing. Granted, I don't have that problem, but whatever it is.
Like, I had a lot of trouble finding conditioner in China, particularly in Beijing. Like, even with, again, we didn't have a smartphone back in 2010. So I would use like an actual dictionary and pointing and drawing and explaining. And I was at the store and at the hotel, and it was not until we got to Hong Kong that they they were to provide us with some conditioner. And I was like, I don't know, do people not use conditioner? I was like thinking, I don't know. But those are the kind of things that you learn. Not every culture, not every place follows the rules that you do, or uses the same products you do.
And things aren't necessarily good or bad. Sometimes they're just different, and they're just that way because of that. But it also gives you perspective between places. So for example, I think being in the Netherlands, just seeing the work culture, that has affected me here once I've come back to the US. So people really, you take your vacation when you're off. You don't email people when they're out of the office. There's a lot of things. There's coffee pauses. So throughout the day, you have, even if you don't drink coffee like myself, you have coffee breaks, you converse with your colleagues.
Birthdays, like everybody comes out and you eat everybody, like the birthday person brings a cake and shares it with everybody, and you have to attend and you have to be there and sing the happy birthday song, and it's the thing,
You do not eat at your desk. They don't even have cleaning staff for offices, and they brought so many of us Americans over. It actually upped our cleaning budget because a lot of people didn't realize, oh, I'm eating at my desk. I go, why are you eating at your desk? We never had to clean that before.
Yeah, there's no such a thing. You stop and you go into the dining area, kitchen area in your office space, and you sit and you eat, and you don't look at your phone and you don't look at your computer. You actually play card games, or something, like you are interacting with other humans.
So it's very interesting. So you start to see these differences, and sometimes I find it really fascinating too. I remember one of the first times I came back to the US, a lot of things that I never thought were weird before I was living somewhere else suddenly became weird to me. So for instance, the Dutch are very open culture with their skin. So there's coworkers who go to saunas together. They have beaches where people don't wear much clothing. But I remember one of the first things when I came back to the US, you notice in the airports or the public restrooms, there's all this space between the stalls. In the Netherlands, there's no space, even though they're, I'd say on average,
You
more
mean like around the door?
around the door, more
Yeah.
more comfortable in their skin, or even seeing the size of our. When I first got to the Netherlands, I thought their drinks were so tiny. They look like little midget drinks or very tiny drinks. But when I came back, now the 20-ounce soda that I thought was a normal size bottle looked ginormous. I go, how do I get my hands around this? So there's certain things that I always thought were normal that now are weird, or even going with, one time I flew back and I was visiting one of my friends in California, went to, I forget if it was a BJ's or Costco, it's one of those giant stores. And I used to be disappointed in the Netherlands not having as many options, but now I went in that store and I was overwhelmed going, oh my God, there's a whole aisle for chips and pretzels where we would have one kind of chip or two kinds of chips, couple, like maybe a kind of pretzels, and it became overwhelming for me. But then there's other things too where I go, wow, it really amazed me when I came back to the US and I went to a sports bar to watch a game. In the Netherlands, it was always very interesting. If you want a drink or you want some more food, you got to really chase the server or the waiter or waitress down. Whereas in the US, I remember it almost felt weird. I'm almost done with my drink or my beer, whatever I had. And suddenly someone goes, oh, here, I got you another one. And you almost have to tell them no. So it's very interesting. You start to really, really see those differences. And then it's nice because you learn to appreciate certain things of your home country more. And you also learn to realize like some things you thought, hey, this makes sense. Maybe it doesn't make as much sense. And I think there's a lot of value if people have the opportunity to not just visit places, but actually, even if it's not for a long time, live somewhere where you're there long enough where you're not a visitor anymore. And the other thing too with us that I thought was very advantageous, when we went to the Netherlands, we moved to a city called Sertogenbos, or Den Bosch for short. So this wasn't Amsterdam, this wasn't their New York City. This was a small city where 99.999% of the people were Dutch. So we really became part of the culture, and we also stood out. So we got
were kind of like, people were like, wait, where are you from? Why are you speaking English? What's going on here? You know, and then they would even stop us to practice their English, because the Dutch most of them are phenomenal with their English, which made it very easy to communicate and get involved and meet people. But at the same time, it's surprising how how well spoken they are in English. But they would really stop us in the middle of the street and just be like, "Can I practice with you?"
But for us, I think it was a very good opportunity. At first, it was very difficult because there wasn't those large expat communities, and we had to really adapt because, hey, we're there. We're not, it's like moving to, if we think of a Pennsylvania example, it might be the difference between moving to, or the US, Lancaster, Pennsylvania versus New York City. New York, there might be other options for the language that you maybe speak versus Lancaster. There might be less of those options. So it was very, I think it was very worthwhile like that. Anything else with the Netherlands you want to call out, Sweetie?
Not necessarily about the Netherlands, but I just want to say, where did this all come from, right? So I think we both have to acknowledge the fact that growing up, we had many opportunities to travel, thanks to both of our parents that truly encouraged us to travel within our respective countries, Argentina and US, and also outside of Argentina, and just being comfortable with that. So we've really been, since the moment our daughter was born, the fact that she was born in the Netherlands, I think that's already right. But from the moment, we started a family, but not really that. Way before that, we really truly knew that traveling and understanding otherness, that's not a coincidence that I studied anthropology, right? It's just so important for us. And it helped us, like Dan really well explained, it's almost a way to understand ourselves better. It's great to expose ourselves to things that perhaps we're not as comfortable with, or that don't look as familiar to us. And that's why one of the reasons why we wrote the book really is I would say the number one message is really to encourage people to travel and to see the world, and to sometimes and it's always sometimes there's people who have the ability to do it, perhaps financially, but perhaps time is an issue, or the other way around, right? You have the time, you don't have the financial in line. But just always find giving you, through our book, I think we give encouragement, we give tips, and we give just the incentives that you perhaps need to just do it if you haven't done it before. And if you have opportunities to connect with places that you perhaps been to, or share with you a thing or two of something that, or a place that you've never been to before that now you get excited about going to. So I actually would like to put a question out there for people that are watching us on the chat. What's one of your favorite places that you've been to? And perhaps you want to say like why. I think that would be,
great question.
And if you haven't traveled internationally, that's okay too. You can pick something within your country, but I think it would be a nice time to perhaps just kind of hear from some of the places you've been to. And while we wait for the answers to come in, we can tell you a little bit about some of the places, just kind of name them and something that we liked about it.
Before that too, there were a few questions that came in, so
yes, please
ask those. One of them was directed towards Dan, but both of you could answer. What do you think the minimum time is to spend in a place before you start seeing it with different eyes?
Oh, that's a good one.
I know you kind of touched on that.
That's an interesting one.
And then another question too was, are you working on your next book? So you can lead in.
So with the time, I don't know if there's an exact time frame. I feel like I'm gonna just go with maybe like.
Do you think when you spend about 4 months in Australia, do you think that was enough? Or you could have used a little bit more time to get a better understanding? Maybe
a little bit more.
I spent about 4 or 5 months in Mexico studying abroad through Dickinson, and I would say that was definitely sufficient for me to make friendships, understand cultural differences. Given that I already speak the language, yes, I would say probably a minimum of 3 months, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'd say 3 on the low end. I was going to say without that input, I was going to go with 6 with my gut. And it's just one of those things where I don't know if there's an exact answer, but I do know where I've been to places before where I go, uh-oh, maybe this seems a little scary, or this seems a little bit, and then over time, you just start seeing it differently. So that would be my gut there. And another book, no plans right now. We did.
Well, we did actually.
Okay, I'll let you.
We did. So we did. Well, 2 things. So a lot of people have asked, like, when is the English version coming, right? Because
it's time consuming. We don't know.
I had plans to do it for by the end of this year, but with a new job, I think it's going to complicate that. So no promises right now as to when that would happen. In terms of other ideas on other books, I don't know if a travel book would be the next thing, but I did get a chance to work with my daughter on creating an alphabet in Spanish with all her drawings, and that we also published that last year. And again, it was a fun project with my daughter, and it actually became kind of a bigger deal than I anticipated. It became a #1 new release on Amazon, and so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much traveling we can get in the next few years to be able to write another travel book.
I may have missed this too. Is it an audiobook already, or is there plans to make it an audiobook?
Nope. Not right now.
Nope.
So right now you can find it electronically, and it's 99 cents, so you can download it directly to a Kindle. We are not trying to make money from this project. It was truly just getting our stories out there. And again, like we said, the message of, you can do it, travel, or if you've traveled before, like here are some things that you would enjoy additionally, or here's something that you can connect with, perhaps from your own travels. And then you can also buy a hard copy. I think they're $4.99.
And also, we didn't mention it before, but one of the other reasons we did do it was we thought someday this might be really interesting for our kids, especially Maya, because she partakes in a lot of these stories, but she probably was in 15 to 20-ish countries before she was 2. And she might be able to go back and read about those things, or they might just get a little bit of perspective on their parents someday if they actually care to. Not sure if they will or not, but it could be something interesting for them to see some of the foolish things we've done, some of the good experiences we've had, and a lot of those type of instances.
And I think as it's a good time to perhaps mention that, a lot of people say that traveling with kids, it's really hard. And yes, it is hard. We won't deny that. I don't know, especially having two. With that said, though, I would say that it was actually easier to travel with an infant, like we did with our daughter, than it would be now or with a toddler. And we really took advantage of that.
You don't need to carry food. And one of the major advantages, people think you're locals. I still remember we were on this trolley in Prague, and one of the train guys comes on. He's giving tickets to all these tourists, but he sees us with a baby, says something to us. We don't really understand it, but he assumes we're locals, and basically busts everyone else. Doesn't bother us at all.
Airports, you go through them, in a breeze. They always give you priority. I mean, again, things are changing, right? But that was at least our experience. People are just more accommodating, and it really, as long as you don't have to entertain your child is entertained by the faces and the things that they're looking at when they're little. So we truly took advantage of when our daughter was little, and we did a significant part of our traveling through Europe and beyond with an infant.
So Andrew, were there any other questions or comments on travel stuff before we chug along?
So it looks like people have been to Norway, to France, some of the islands down in the Caribbean.
Oh, nice.
Yes, we did a family trip to Norway with my in-laws and my sister-in-law, and we took little Maya, that was 6 months at the time, and we that was also a very fun place. We took the train through the fjord, to get to the fjords and beyond, all the way to Bergen. It was really good. Caribbean, yes, we've been to a few different islands as well. And then when they mentioned France, we've been to Paris. We did a trip to Paris when I was pregnant. I was like 7 months, 8 months, no, 7 months pregnant or something like that. And it was actually during New Year's, and we kind of waited last minute. That's a bad time to wait last minute, because the prices really do go up. So we ended up finding some strategic ways to get to France instead of using the fastest train, which was going to cost a fortune. So we ended up using different kinds of trains, and then we use a bus system, and then we ended up using a service that it doesn't exist here, but it's basically like Uber.
Blah car, right?
Yeah, blah car.
It's like
imagine,
carpooling.
right? But imagine Uber in Europe. So you can go from France to the Netherlands, and it's like car sharing. So like somebody has a space in their car, and you pay them a fee that they set up, and then off you go. And we did that to go from France, because we did Belgium, France, and to go from France back to the Netherlands. We did that. It was pretty cool. And we used it also in Spain, this service, blah car.
So Ana, do you have like a favorite travel memory or two?
Ooh, so we talked a lot about Europe and Istanbul. It's both, I guess, Asia and Europe. Istanbul being in the European side. So Istanbul would be one of my favorite travel locations, mostly because my heritage, my family comes from the Middle East. So I think that perhaps in my lifetime, one of the closest experiences that I will get to kind of understand the sounds, the smells, the taste, of what my ancestors lived through, over 100 years ago, would be something like Turkey. So Istanbul to me was just fascinating.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so if we're talking about Istanbul, for me, one of the most interesting things, so this isn't a sightseeing thing or anything like that, was when we were traveling around, a lot of times we'd be speaking Spanish together, and we go to these restaurants. And the one thing I thought was really fascinating in Istanbul was we'd watch people go in, say a German couple, they give them one menu, and this would be more expensive prices. Then they see an American couple, a little bit cheaper prices. So we'd be doing Spanish. I pretend I was Argentine. They go, all right.
Or they would ask, like, where are you from? We would say Argentina, right?
And then now that American menu, they go,
30% off for you. We understand your economic situation. No problem.
I thought that was great. So
and also bartending, even at the bazaar, just also, they love to chit chat with you. So, as long as you're not from a European, or, some Europeans or America, then we would use the Argentina card quite a bit.
So if you want to have some fun and you don't mind, it could be an interesting way to go about things. Maybe get some better pricing, a little adventure, a little story. If anyone has interest, just say you're from somewhere. We had a bit of a connection there, so that was okay.
Another question on here, too. I don't know if you guys will touch on this later, but what places are still on your bucket list? I don't know if you're going to be touching on that at all.
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, we've talked about, I know Colombia. I know.
That's mine.
Yanni's on the call. We gotta go visit at some point Colombia.
I want to go to Colombia. That's my top one right now.
We talked about that. I don't know. What are there any other ones that?
Personally, for me, it's Colombia. One, because I've heard great things from a lot of people I know who are from there. Two, I always prefer to go to Spanish-speaking countries. I feel like it's a good way to practice for me. And then also, it's just an opportunity then to hear, speak the language, and it does help actually knowing a language versus not. I think you can have a different experience somewhere with that. I don't know, anywhere else for you, sweetie?
I think a place that we didn't get to go. I thought you were gonna say Oktoberfest or something like that.
Oh, well, I would, but I wasn't gonna bring that up.
I would pick it. Germany is actually, I have to say, a very unique country in the sense that it was definitely not on our bucket list, and we kind of somewhat accidentally on our way. I did a road trip with some people that we met 4 months after we were in the Netherlands. I met a group of people and I jumped in the car with them and we went all the way to Poland, to Krakow, for a couch surfing event. And I was traveling with these three other guys, 2 guys and another girl. And, we ended up stopping in Leipzig because it was on the way. And that was kind of my first experience with Germany. And I was like, oh, okay. So, we both are Jewish. So there's always been kind of, just something about Germany. But we quickly, with time, I would say, we definitely have looked at Germany with different eyes, and we've had some great experiences there. So I think one of the places that we didn't get a chance to go would be Nuremberg. The castles, like to see all the castles there.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I never had interest necessarily in Germany, but after going there, really loved it. At one point, it was pretty much, I think, our only time we were driving in Europe. We rented a car and went along the Rhine River Valley and just stopped it. They have all these principalities and castles that basically acted as toll booths back in the day along the Rhine. And what we did there is we always, especially once we had our daughter Maya, we found these Rick Steves podcasts. It might sound a little bit lame, but we absolutely loved them because we'd listen to something and he goes, check out this town. So we'd listen and we'd stop, and we'd just stop in all these towns, and they'd have these plaques, especially with us, as Ana mentioned, both being Jewish. We find a lot of interest in the historic parts of it. And also, a lot of these towns are just small little towns. You never would have heard of them, just beautiful. And I still remember at one of them we stopped, and first off, if you like banana ice cream, Germany, every ice cream place there has banana and it's delicious. So I took my daughter Maya at the time, who must have been maybe 4 months, 5 months, somewhere thereabouts. So I gave her her first ice cream, banana. She licks it, kind of freaks out being a baby. And I go, okay, I guess she doesn't like it. So I'm talking with Ana, I'm not paying attention. Next thing I know, I see her head goes to my ice cream cone and she face plants right back in it. So her initial impression of where I thought she didn't like it, I think she really liked it, which makes sense.
And there's a very small town that I'm probably going to butcher the name because I don't speak German, but it was Oberswesel, Oberswesel, along the Rhine River. And it's one of those things. I think that's the beauty of sometimes traveling with a plan, but without, it's a set plan for every little thing, is that if you're willing to just kind of see what's out there, or like what we would do, we just do these tours, audio tours that we could pause and just kind of say, oh, I want to skip that, or like, oh, let's really check this out. And we would end up finding other things that we enjoyed. So definitely as a tip, if you are traveling, I would say audio tours are very helpful, especially Rick Steves. We are big fans. And then if they still occur, hopefully they do continue free walking tours or just any tours like that you can get a sense of the city. It's always a great way to start a trip because then you get to hear directly from a local. Like I know our friend Aline, who's a fellow Dickinsonian, she's actually on the call too, and she is a tour guide and in Brazil. And it would be a great. I think it's like so wonderful if you can. I think one of our best, all of our great experiences have been just starting that way, starting talking with a local, getting a feel for what you can do. Normally they recommend you places to eat, things to do, and then you just go from there. And I think that's very valuable. And we've done some amazing tours in Spain, some of our favorite ones.
And as Ana mentioned, I think the other important tip there is not to overplan. So then you have the opportunity to, maybe it's you sit down, you eat somewhere, maybe you get yourself whatever you like, your water, your wine, your beer, you go sit in the park, and then it gives you the opportunity to meet people. And sometimes, generally, those are going to be the best things that you really do remember more than some of the sites. Granted, the sites are good to see too, but I think it's important not to overplan. Have extra time. Fill up your schedule 40%. Don't fill it all the way up.
And I know some people, like, I always find this interesting. Some people are like really into food, right? So they would like plan all the restaurants or things like that where they want to go and eat when they travel. I think that would be like the opposite of us. And again, there's so many really different ways to travel. I think we focus a little bit less on the food. Because I feel like that sometimes limits you on what you can see. Because if you have to go to this specific restaurant or this specific breakfast place, then but those could be adventures too. Don't get me wrong. We're more like into sites and people. Those are kind of like our biggest things that we look forward to. So we like to learn about what people do, like go to a local park and see like what people are doing. Like when we were in, was it in Hungary that we try to get into like their saunas, like for locals, things like that. But that's I think how you find them. In our experience, it's been like that's one of the ways you can really, even if you don't have 3 months or 6 months, you can have a better idea of what people in that country like and enjoy and get a feel for something different.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? We're good? Okay.
All right.
So let's jump in with, do you want to tell us a little bit more about our adventures, like one of the other?
Sure. So I think before we get to, we'll go through some of our mistakes and mishaps, which I have plenty of, though I shouldn't have them with how much I travel. But some other, I guess, interesting things from trips that at least that I really take away as memorable or very interesting was, I still recall when we were in Cadiz at one point. We were traveling around and we were actually taking one of the free walking tours, and there was this journalist actually from China, and it was a very interesting conversation. So the tour guide was telling us, because they had these, it was near Semana Santa week, so a lot of people were wearing in the U.S. what we consider sort of almost that Ku Klux Klan style outfits.
They wear these white hats that look a lot like the KKK hats, but they have nothing to do with that. But it's a tradition that the people do, in Catholics do in Spain.
So he's talking about that, and he was also talking about, I think the Romans at one point had taken the city, and some other things that I think, whether it's Western Europe or U.S., especially when you mention the Romans or some of these hate groups, that people would know and consider, oh, that's common knowledge, or we would think it is. But this very educated person goes, oh, didn't know about the Romans, didn't know about the KKK situation, which might be more U.S. specific, for instance. And I think that's also a good reminder that a lot of times what we consider as common knowledge or history, it's just our history or what we're taught. And she has a very different history, which we learned a little bit when we went to China, but
I had a similar example.
It's very interesting to me. It sort of blows my mind. It's a very big eye opener.
Yeah, I I didn't interrupt you. I was just kind of like, it's nodding because I had a similar situation when we were in, no, it's just because you're moving off the screen. When we were I was in Tanzania through Dickinson as a freshman. And I was also doing some research as an student of anthropology. And I remember having a conversation with a pastor, and I told him that my system of beliefs, I was Jewish, and he was confused. And I was like, he hadn't met a Jew before. So that to me also was quite shocking. But then again, to Dan's point, we are sometimes so centered in our own world that we don't see that some people have a completely different perspective of the world and vision and education and things that they emphasize or that they they did learn. And then I think you should tell the story of China because I think it's really funny.
Oh, sure. So this was kind of interesting. So yeah, we mentioned the journal. So we did when we actually went to China. So had a great time there. This was back, I think Ana said I think it was 2010.
Yeah.
And we were in, I believe it was Beijing at the time.
Yeah.
And in China was one of the few places where we really felt lost. We couldn't read the street signs or anything. So we actually had someone that we met who was helping us with the language and so forth.
A local guide, because those are the places truly that you could use some local help.
And at some point we were walking through the city, and at first a couple people came up to me. They wanted to take a picture. I felt like it was a little bit weird. I thought they were asking for money at first. They were doing something. I go, no,
well, they
no.
were grabbing you from the side, like trying to grab you like this.
And I go, okay, I'll take a picture. And before I know it, now there's 2 people. Now there's 5 people. Now there's 10 people. Now there's 20. I'm starting to have a line to take pictures with me.
Him, not me.
I'm not some Johnny Depp or some famous person. And I go and I ask the guy, I'm like, what? Why are they lining up? He goes, I have no idea. He goes, maybe they think you're someone famous, or maybe because I think it was a time during the year where some people might have been traveling from more of the inside of the country, from more of the countryside into the cities for vacation. So he thought maybe they're not used to someone so tall, so white, blue eyes, whatever it might be. But
he was a celebrity. There was also a theory that maybe he looked like some sort of guy that there was some sort of movie, some dance show. They were saying, like, we were trying to through the local tour guide, we were trying to figure out like what's going on here. Like, do we need to start asking for money for taking this?
Eventually, we had to walk away. Like, sorry, no more pictures, no more pictures. I mean, after about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm like, all right, guys, no more pictures. No, I got to keep going. So till this day, I have no idea why. And I realized I'm glad I'm not a celebrity because that was not a fun experience. So it was definitely kind of.
We prefer to fly incognito.
Exactly. Most definitely. And then I think that the other thing, just in general, before talking about some of our more screw ups, is for me, one of the other things I just really like about travel, as I mentioned, it's more the people. And I love how, whether we've been in Italy, we've met friends and family there. One time I was in Singapore and met a younger brother of a childhood friend from the same town. And it's just such a small world where you can basically meet up with people without planning. Maybe you see on Facebook, wherever, oh, they're here and you're here too. Oh crap, let's meet up. It can be such a small world at times.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've gotten to the part where we tell you some of the mishaps there's a few. I think I want to share with you one about Israel specifically. I've been to Israel a few times, and for a trip that we did just the 2 of us, that we also got the opportunity to meet some family. Nice segue there. That lives there. One of the things that happened again with this travel with phones and not having a smartphone necessarily with data plan. Let's just say that after this trip we learned our lesson.
Well, we would generally advise everyone to have data when you travel, and we always think we should. I don't know if we're too cheap or we forget, but we've had so many issues where we had no way to communicate, no GPS, and it
was also, a few years
learned
ago.
A lesson.
Yeah. We ended up actually one time when we were in Jerusalem driving through a road, and we're like, oh, look, there's no traffic here. Oh, wow, we can fly right through. And then we realized that it's actually just a bus and taxi lane because somebody actually knocked on our window violently. And we're like, what's going on? And again, they speak Hebrew, like we can't read all the signs necessarily. And they were telling us, get off the street, you're going to get a really big fine, get off. Basically, you silly people.
I thought I found a good way to go, but yeah, it was just for the trams and stuff. It wasn't for us. And then another time too, just with Israel, at one point we landed and
tell us about Istanbul. I think that's a better one.
Okay, sure. So with Istanbul, this was kind of interesting. So Anna's mom, Sandra, told us about this neighborhood in the city that was supposed to be really great. Uskador, I think.
Uskudar. Yeah.
Uskadar, I'm sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing it well.
Fine.
And it was, so we took a look, went to a train station, and we go, all right, let's take this subway or train station to Uskadar. So we're following, we're looking at the stops going by, and we're thinking, it's been a while. It's just supposed to be a neighborhood right over there, but we see Uskadar listed as one of the stops. We're like, all right, let's just wait. And this is train's going pretty fast. Eventually,
yeah, we went for a while.
We went for a while.
40 minutes, maybe more. I don't know.
It was significant, and it felt a little bit weird, but we go, all right, let's stick to the map. So we get out, and we realize we are completely outside of the city, and we don't know what the heck to do. So we walk, we find this restaurant. And the other thing we noticed here, in Istanbul, we can communicate with people. Most people spoke English, or a lot of people
Worked
did.
in tourism, restaurants, hotels. Like
Out here,
yeah, no.
we couldn't speak with anybody.
We went back to the basics, like color, like a pencil with a notepad and like sign language. Please, back here.
So we walk into this restaurant, we try to communicate. We can't, at first, server's not helping us, but we find someone in there who can talk to us. And we find out there's a neighborhood named Uskadar, but there's also a town or city outside of Istanbul named Uskadar, and we went to the completely wrong place. With that said, we had an amazing meal there, delicious, much cheaper than Istanbul, and he pointed us to a bus that would take us back into the city.
Well, we were like, I think we're still in it's a huge city. We're actually still in the city, but we just went too far away from the neighbor that we thought we wanted to go to a section. With this section in the neighborhood, we ended up going all the way to basically the end of it. That's really what happened.
And then we get on this bus, and I think one of the crazy things was, so I don't remember if it was when we were leaving the bus or when we got on, the bus driver we were waiting in line, and we were going to pay him with some of the cash that we had. And he looks at us and goes, nope, card.
And we're like, no card, no card. We just want to get back to our hotel. And
eventually this one really nice lady helped us out. We couldn't really talk with her, offered her money, or at least we think we offered her money.
Yeah.
And then we pointed to her where we wanted to go on the map. And next thing we know, she gives us the thumbs up. We were able to get to where we wanted to be. But sometimes those good things can be complete mistakes.
And sometimes, we really have to thank locals. I think that's why we actually give that advice in our book to say, if you have somebody, if you're in your own city, you can be a great host already. Like you can give somebody a tip, you can give them directions, because you never know when you're going to be traveling and you're going to need some help too, right?
And we've needed help a lot of times.
A lot of times.
So
I think we're almost getting to the end of our time together, but I think it would be a good time to maybe you have some questions about what's it been for us lately since we haven't been traveling. And that's true, it's been quite different than in the past. We have definitely slowed down, also because we have two kids that are in the toddler and young kid stage, so it's been different. And like we said, we definitely have places we want to see, and I think once we feel a bit more comfortable, we'll do that. We do have some trips planned for this summer, visiting some friends in Colorado, hoping to do our annual trip to Florida, and hopefully being able to either have my family come from Argentina or go to Argentina, since we haven't been there in quite a while. I think that's kind of it. Do we have any other questions or comments that we want to get through before the end of our session together?
If anybody would like to speak too, I can unmute you and allow you to talk. I just realized I could do that, didn't I?
Sure, yeah, if you want to raise your hand.
Yeah, if anybody wants to raise their hand
Yes.
If anybody wants to raise their hand and say something, please do.
I think while we wait for maybe somebody to jump in, I think the other thing that is wonderful about traveling is that we've met so many people through this journey. Just through that trip that I was mentioning to Poland with couch surfing, I ended up meeting this wonderful girl from Italy who became one of my students. Things like that you would never imagine, and we're still in touch after many years. So
it's a small world.
Yeah, it's
have somebody out here, so I'll let them.
We're here. Aline. Hi, Aline. You can ask her to mute herself, I think. Hold on. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Hola, hola.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Dan. Oh, miss you guys. Greetings from Rio, everyone.
Ah,
Yes, you failed to mention, Dan, you have to come visit Rio too. That's
That's
another place that
true.
should be on your bucket list.
that's true.
Well, Dan actually hasn't been to Rio, but we
No, I
have been in Sao Paulo. We have some family there from my mom's side. And yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot more to see of Brazil that Dan has to
Absolutely,
check out.
absolutely. I just got to bring my sunblock though. That's what I always do.
Yes,
It's sunny and I'm
agree.
That is true. That is true. Thank you, Alina, so much for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you so much.
And
So
then-
great to see you guys. Thank
Tour
you.
guide, you know who to call.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, Alina.
Bye.
Oh, we have another one.
Hey, Leandro.
Hi, Leandro.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We
Yeah.
can hear you, buddy.
Cool. Well, very nice to hear a lot more of your stories. And just wanted to make a comment actually that you kind of alluded to this, but you haven't said it explicitly. And it seems to me that one of the things that are the best of this experience is the planned serendipity, right? You have some part planned, but you plan for serendipity. You plan for those. You leave space. You know, when you only plan that 40% that you were saying, Dan, and stuff. Just you plan for the unplanned, and you have space for that to happen. And I think that's a lost art in a way when we try to fill our calendars. And I think it's important. And I thank you for bringing that up.
Well said, Leandro. Well said.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Dan is definitely more of that, right? Because I definitely am more of the planner, and that's something actually that's gotten us in quite a few problems before, because I know where we're staying, which hotel, what train we're taking. I mean, the main things, right? Our transportation, our accommodations, and he would have no clue. So we actually, at one point in Berlin, we got separated. He had no idea where to go. So you got to read our book in Spanish to figure out how we managed to.
I survived. I survived.
To communicate and find each other in Berlin, even though we had no way to communicate, and he had no idea where I was heading to.
Don't abandon your spouse when they don't have directions
I don't-
or addresses on where to go. That's the moral
The bus
story.
took off. Remember, I was on the bus with our daughter, and the bus took off, and you were not on it.
Details.
All right, I think we'll leave you with that one.
Anybody else have any other questions or want to say anything? If you raise your hand or put in the chat.
And just to throw out here, Ana has not grown. She's not as tall as me. We have her
No.
up on a stepping stool.
Yes,
so-
this is my regular height. Oh, hello. Good evening.
Bob.
Let me see if we can. There.
I've got to unmute, right?
There you go.
There.
Hey, guys, great to see you. Hey, I just wanted to make one comment. Ana, you talked about being a freshman and traveling to Tanzania, which was, quite unusual, right? I mean, you came all the way to little Carlisle, Pennsylvania from Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
And then freshman year, you go to Tanzania. I know that there were other trips that you took, but the one that I remember was the one in the summer of 2006 to Greece. Remember that?
Of course. We were travel buddies. Yes, absolutely. Dickinson has a great program.
But that archaeological dig at Mycenae
Yes.
was just one stop on your trip that summer. Where else did you go? I forget.
I was heading to Israel, so I did a little bit of traveling by myself. I did the island of Crete. That was one of, I think, not my first travel solo, but it was one of the longest that I did on my own. And then I was in Israel for a few weeks. Yes, and I got the best of both worlds. I got to travel on my own terms, and then I got the nice treatment. I got to travel by car thanks to you and Professor.
So you had this adventurous spirit. Kind of, you were born with it. Dan, did you catch it from Ana, or did you have it yourself?
No, good. I mean, my parents always took me traveling when I was young, so I think I had it. I definitely had it before, and then just with work, I got so used to flying and just I almost became too relaxed because I would be on planes and be like, I don't even know where I'm going. I'll figure it out when I get there.
Yes.
That it's really
Yeah.
almost relaxed me too much, where I really struggle to get stressed or worried when I'm traveling anywhere.
Yeah.
Great. Well, great to see you both. Thank you so much for doing this.
Our pleasure.
Our
And
pleasure.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you for everything. You know, I owe
As
you a big
always.
one. Thank you.
Okay.
And if I can, I don't know if there's anybody else. If not, that's all right. Here's our contact information. If anybody would like to follow up with, you know, any further questions, any further travel tips, you're welcome to do so. Like I said, you can access our book fairly easily through this link, or just searching for the full title of the book. It's in Spanish. That's
Sorry about that.
But if you're learning the language, this could be a great also way to practice. And if not, you're going to have to stay tuned and see if we can come up with that English version for all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you to
so much,
Dickinson
and
for
thank you,
the
Dickinson.
opportunity.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good evening. Happy Thursday.
Bye-bye.